Well, this is Kingsbury Road, Kingsbury, and probably should have shot this video a bit earlier actually. There you go. So what you're looking at now, up there, a bit further along, was I think the site of the house which was called the Hyde, and which gives its name to the section of the A5 Edgware Road from about this point down the end of the road through to Colindale area. So this area has seen a great deal of changes, like so many places in northwest London. But this bit here, looking down here, and this is why I should have shot it a bit earlier, all of this site was the site of Van den Pla Coachworks, which closed down around 1979-1980. Van den Pla used to be coach builders. They made car bodies for people like Bentley in the 1920s, 30s, 40s. Were taken over by British Leyland in the 60s. And I think this was their office block actually. Let's pull back a bit. That was the office block, I think. So yeah, it was quite a vast site, and it was originally part of an airfield and a production site for aircraft in World War I. Anyway, let's just walk on a little bit. It's quite splendid temple, or I'm going to probably give it its correct terminology as I move round it. This was built, I think, about 15-20 years ago. I can't remember now. It feels like it's always been here, but it hasn't. And it's the most incredible piece of architecture. Incredible craftsmanship and detailing. I came here to give blood actually once, and I think also they were doing stuff when we had COVID. It was quite a well-known facility. And it's really quite an amazing addition to the area. There we go. So it's the Sri Swaminarayan Mandir Kingsbury. See, I display my open ignorance and complete poor pronunciation. There you go. So it's a temple, place of worship. It's also a great community hub in the area. A school up there escapes my mind now what it was called. I think this is Jubilee Park down here. Now this church, Oliver Goldsmith Primary School. So that then sort of links in, because Oliver Goldsmith, I believe, lived in Hyde House. Hopefully I'm not making this all up. I'm pretty sure of it. I didn't know I was going to do this video, so it's on the hoof. Here we have Holy Innocents Church, Kingsbury. Now this isn't a particularly old building, it's probably Victorian or a bit later. Notable, and if I had the wonders of editing and all the rest of it, I would put it up. But there is a very, not famous picture, but it's quite a good picture of 3 Bentley cars lined up outside on the road here. Presumably they'd had the work done on them at Van den Pla Coachworks, just as I mentioned earlier on, and they were getting ready, I think, to go to Le Mans, 24 hours of Le Mans, which Bentley did very well in the late 20s and I think in the early 30s, but I think by about 1930 they'd pretty much done their best. So there's the school over there. Sorry this is all on wide angle, but it just gets everything in. Jubilee Park, and the big buildings over in the distance, if I just go in on that slightly, that's over by the Welsh Harp, West Hendon. That's where the old West Hendon estate was. So keep this on pause, and then I'll pick up a bit further down. So we are quite high up here. This is sort of like the peak, and you can see we're going downhill again. And the reason why I'm coming down here today, it's not far from where I live, but I'm a bit of a lazy so to be honest with you. I should get my bike out, do a bit of cycling, that would be better. But really, I was going to come down to have a look at the Sainsburys at West Hendon. Yes, that's really exciting. Opposite the old Hendon Magistrates Court, and what used to be the site of Dupal Coachworks back in from the 1920s through until the late 1960s. So they actually made coaches, bodywork for vans and lorries. A big employer in the area. That closed down. The site went through various changes, and then it was the Sainsburys, the big car park, and then that's recently been redeveloped so that they've built on the car park with some big blocks of apartments, and it's quite interesting. As we get closer, and I'll point it out. Just another little moment to capture the scenery. It's a nice early April spring day, and it's strange, there's like a cold breeze, but it's quite warm and the sun's out, blue sky, and the leaves are starting to come out, so it's a really nice time of the year change. But I mean, honestly, you think you're out in the countryside, and once upon a time this used to be Middlesex countryside. But this bit of land was kept free as a car park, as a park, sorry, not a car park. But it's very noticeable when you look round how much the landscape is changing. You see over there, those blocks you can see are over in North Acton, I believe. Used to work over that way. So it starts with these big blocks going up. You start to act as marker points for bits of London, which you wouldn't necessarily have been able to work out before. That's not a good thing, but it's where we are. So. A moment there just to take in the scenery, and the sound of a siren, lovely. I had to stop then because I had a terrible sharp pain in my foot, and I stopped. I thought that can't be, and there was a thorn, really long thorn that had pierced through the bottom of my trainer. Nice bit of detail there. Oh, I have to say, it's not to do with geography or anything, but it's a rather nice old Mercedes-Benz saloon from 1969, registration on it. That is lovely. Anyway, so yeah, we're getting along to the end of Kingsbury Road, a little bit further to go, but you can see all these buildings. A lot of these are new. They weren't here even, some of them, 5 years ago. They've all gone up. This is all to do with the supposed requirement, so we're to believe, that we need lots of housing. The thing is, most of it isn't affordable, and that's the bit of the market that needs housing. Work it out for yourself. Yeah, so they're all new over there, and the rather ugly looking building that you can see in the middle of those two, just close in on it, that one there was originally a large post office telecommunications, otherwise BT. It's a massive exchange for North West London, telephone exchange, but all sorts of odd things are going on there, I'm sure, because why would it need to be as big as it was? They used to actually dominate the skyline around here, the group of those buildings, but not anymore because it's all changed. Springfield Gardens, that's where we are. Let's just take it out of that and put it onto there. So yeah, unfortunately I'm probably not well known for doing thrilling videos, but they are more of a scrapbook really. It's just shooting stuff really, just to show, because this area is going through such a lot of changes. And if I'd done the same thing about 10 years ago, quite a lot of this stuff wasn't there. This is called Derwent Rise, and it heads down to nothing, but yeah, if you keep walking in that direction, you're over to the Welsh Harp, the Brent Reservoir, as it's rather mundanely called, its official name. So lots of 30s housing down here. This is probably more 20s. But yeah, the rapid amount of development of housing in the interwar periods, the 1920s and 30s, meant that this area changed really from being countryside into suburbia. And although it's still Middlesex, it was effectively London. Now this bit, I don't want to get too political again, but here we have another example of the neglect and decay. See if you can work out what I'm talking about. Yeah. How do we get to the point where the sign that says welcome to London Borough of Barnet, so that's what it actually says, believe it or not. Great, putting the community first. Tongue in cheek. The Saracens advert is nice and clean and tidy and new. Saracens being the rugby club, and that seems to have more importance. Funny, because the London Borough of Barnet went through a change from Conservative run to Labour run, and I had rather hoped that some things like that with the neglect, obvious signs of neglect, would have been dealt with, but apparently not. This isn't obviously an important enough area, although the council tax coming in from these sort of developments should be. Now that main block that you can see straight ahead, that used to be called Spurling Corner. I don't think it is anymore, and that's because there was a car showrooms and motor dealership was called Spurling's on that site, and that's why it was called that. Getting up to another notable bit here now. Yeah, just checking it's running. Goldsmith Avenue. So this definitely does run down to the Welsh Harp, to the playing fields of the Welsh Harp. Rather nice. Immediately post-war, could even be pre-war housing there. I don't know whether it was local authority. It has that look about it. Really quite nice actually, despite the replacement windows that went into it. But that is a very good example there of modernist social housing. Just a small number of them. There might be more behind it, as opposed to this sort of 20s stuff here. Let's go to a wide angle again. Now down towards the bottom on the left-hand side, that building you can see there that I'm pointing at, that used to be the site of a pub, which if I'm right was called the Red Lion. Could be wrong. It was called the Red Lion, and that was there until about, I don't know, 20-25 years ago. Came down. That's now a care home. Behind it, the 60s looking building, which is now, believe it or not, I think a Premier Inn or Travel Lodge hotel. That used to be Hyde House, the second Hyde House, and it was an office block, and amongst the companies that were based there was Lasky's. If anybody can remember Lasky's, they were a hi-fi dealers. Yeah, and then beyond, all those sort of beige looking buildings, that all used to be a strange mix of sort of industrial, small industrial stuff. Like I said, this area has had a lot of changes. Great deal. Well, I don't know what it is now. There's a ghost sign on the side of the building. We got a new, I remember that being a Chinese restaurant down the bottom there, but it's a supermarket, a gym. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised that's probably going to be changed into housing again. So there's Spurling Corner. And this is the reason why I've come down here, to have a look at this incredible new development. See this stuff here? Back in the 1980s when these lot went up, that was the sort of stuff that was being built in terms of housing. And that, 40 years later, is what you've got. Now in between that and that stuff over there is the old Hendon telephone exchange. So I mentioned the telephone exchange, and this bit, this sort of 1920s bit, is the original bit. I think they've knocked some stuff down. Now I remember going down to the front of that building and there was some incredible stuff being left behind. I'd be very surprised if it was all still there, and I'm very tempted to go and have a look. So let's do that. Well, this really is a magical mystery tour, although not very magical. So this is the front of the old telephone exchange, and yes, look, there it is. Now things that get hidden away by overgrowth are quite remarkable. Now because I filmed this, it's just giving it away. And look, up there, telephone exchange. Incredible. Now, I'm not going to film anymore because there's a homeless person sleeping in the doorway there, so I'm not going to. That there, you see Holocene Court, that used to be the site of a pub. I think it was called the Middlesex Arms. I remember that sitting there going into terminal decline a few years ago. And now it's another block of flats. You'd never know there was a pub there. You'd never know. There we go, look. British Telecom. Nice. The modern face of British Telecom, as it used to be called. I mean, really, down here has become a complete free-for-all for developers, all the way down the Edgware Road. This is the A5 Edgware Road, all down this length, from basically Staples Corner right up through to Colindale, all the way over there. It's all apartment blocks, or it's going to be apartment blocks. This used to be a factory site. Look at this, look. It's bonkers. It really is. There's the old post office sorting depot, and then beyond that is the Hendon Magistrates Court. This is going to be a long video. I didn't plan this, and it shows, but it's good to do it, because if I planned something like this I'd never get it done, because I'd be tormenting over it and the weather wouldn't be any good when I went out. Today's fine, so who cares. There would have been a factory on this site as well. Yeah, this is the first time I've been down here since they built this. That's a terrible thing to admit, but I find that I don't really want to come to these areas anymore because they're going through so much change. That sounds snobby, but I just can't cope with the amount of change that's going on. I mean, truth be known, there wasn't anything particularly attractive about this area anyway on this site. It was just a big car park. And yes, people have got homes, that's great, but I don't know. For someone who's interested in local history and how things used to look, it is a bit hard to take sometimes when the change is so rapid. It is so rapid. It's massive, literally massive. Very busy too around here. So yes, like I said, this used to be where I'm pointing the camera at. This used to be the site of Jupil's Coachworks. I doubt there's anything to tell you that, because they don't seem to bother doing that sort of thing anymore. Here, look, historic milepost. There we go. Look, some attempt by the local authority. Grade 2 listed milepost believed to date back to the early 19th century, marks the distance in miles north from Marble Arch. And there it is. That's always been there. It just was hidden away at times. Beep. Yep. So I'm just going to God, it's amazing. And I say that not in a particularly good way. Let's just pause a second. Right, so here, this is the old Sainsburys. This is the old Sainsburys, and it's still here, but this will be cleared, I'm sure, very, very imminently for the development that's been described on the board here, in which it says Silkstream, London Northwest Line, and that's because the Silkstream flows very nearby. In fact, it joins up to go to the Welsh Sharp Reservoir. It's just beyond here. So just beyond where that Halfords is the waterway that goes into the Welsh Sharp. It's a bit overgrown. Right, we're getting towards the end of this video. I think I'm running out of time. I think this is the Silkstream. And then on the other side it will flow in over to the Welsh Sharp Reservoir. So this is quite an old bit of infrastructure. can see all that Silkstream development behind. And this here, just to prove where we are, this here used to be a Gemka showrooms for Toyota, from what I remember. A bit of planning detail there. So as you can see, West Hendon Broadway, major highway works going on. The reason why I'm carrying on filming here, and I am going to stop shortly after this is the turning into Garrick Road. And yes, there's a good reason, I think, why it's called Garrick Road, but the theatrical entrepreneur, possibly, but in more recent times, it is the site towards the top of a costume store hire called, it's on the side of the building, nice and big, Angels. Okay, who used to be in central London. They were established in 1840, so it's quite apt that they should end up on Garrick Road. This is the Gemka showrooms. Let's do a bit wider. Now, this, incredibly, and going up towards there, right up to where the railway would be, which is the London Midland line, was the site of Schweppes, the mineral water company. Schweppes, you know, ginger ale, Schweppes tonic water, all of that sort of thing, and they used to be here right through until 1979. And there is a very notable picture, as far as I'm concerned, that was taken around about here, which showed you the modern 1960s frontage of Schweppes, where that showroom is, and there was a fountain just beyond, and it said Schweppes. It was all lovely sort of early 1960s stuff, but the old Schweppes site was all brick built, and it was put up in 1895. And the area where this showrooms was used to be sort of like there was a big fountain and there was gardens, but they used to have stables for horses a bit further back where Angels is. So yeah, massive amount of change. I mean, and that over there, which is West Hendon Broadway, that is a video in itself, and I surely haven't got the time for it now. That's the old Hendon estate being redeveloped. It's still carrying on with the remnants of it. West Hendon has seen an enormous amount of change in the last 10 years. Shocking. But you know, the old mantra, people need homes. Just keep saying that. But they need affordable homes. You know, and they need affordable rents. So, anyway, forgive my politics. So yes, the famous picture that I said was taken about here. And there's a bus pulling in. There was a bus stop, obviously. So I'll try and put a link up to that, because it is notable, because it does show you the terrific amount of change. So it's about here. Lovely. Well, thanks for watching. I hope it wasn't too boring. But like I said, these videos are not done for entertainment purposes. They're not done to be getting any awards. They are merely video sketchbooks, notebooks, really, as much for me as it is for anybody watching it, because as time goes on, a lot of these things will change, and it's nice to have a visual document of it, even if it is with me rambling over the top of it. And just to prove that it's me, and also because I'm wearing that old t-shirt, the t-shirt which I had done by the business in Uxbridge, balcony shirt to Windsor Street, and we did try and see if people might want those, and in the end it didn't really happen. So that's my ugly mug, and thank you for watching, and yeah, like I said, I hope it wasn't too boring.